What's up, everybody? This is John with Archer Film. Thanks so much to my subscribers, repeat viewers. If you're going to comment, please make sure that it's thought out. Give me something to think about on this film journey of ours. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. So who is the greatest American film director of all time? This is interesting to me. Now, if you know anything about movies, a few names immediately probably come to mind. You got Scorsese, Coppola, Spielberg, Kubrick, okay? Those are kind of the big ones, I think. So here's my random criteria for this. The most great works by a filmmaker. That's it, the most. Who has the most, masterpieces? Of course, that term is a little bit, vague. But, as I've said before, what makes a masterpiece? Well, it's a story and a concept that are executed perfectly to reveal a unique take on a universal theme. Okay? So that's what it is. Now, first off, honorable mention for greatest American filmmaker is Clint Eastwood. He has some bangers. Ever since, in my opinion, he's been doing this for a long time, but ever since Unforgiven, I think he's just cranked out some really great films. We got Unforgiven, $1 Million Baby, Perfect World, Mystic River, Letters from Iwo Jima, Gran Torino, and, there's some other ones like Pale Rider that was really good, but, some of the ones in between, they just seem a little flawed. And honestly, some of the ones after Gran Torino, again, I've seen a lot of them, and they were just kind of like The Changeling, they're just kind of messy. And some of them are just absolutely didactic, in my opinion. So we're just going to count those that I mentioned. Unforgiven, $1 Million Baby, Perfect World, Mystic River, Letters from Iwo Jima, Gran Torino. Okay? So we're going to count those. That's 6 arguably great films. So we can all agree Unforgiven is great, $1 Million Baby is great. If you've never seen those other films that I mentioned, they're great as well. So just take my word for it. Those are 6 great masterpieces, in my opinion. That's 6. That's not bad. He's got a lot of other good ones or decent ones, but those are the best. So next, we should probably just skip Francis Ford Coppola because, let's be honest, he only has 4 great films, in my opinion. He's got 2 Godfathers, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is an absolute masterpiece. We all know that. Godfather is too. If you've never seen The Conversation, that's a sleeper. It is such a good movie about paranoia. It's very, very good. So, it is, good cinema and storytelling. Those 4 are fantastic, and as much as I love Dracula, doesn't quite measure up. And he has some other good ones. The Outsiders was good. Rumblefish, even Rainmaker was not bad. But those, in my opinion, are his best. So Coppola has 4. So we got Clint Eastwood with 6, Coppola with 4. Next, we have who used to be one of my favorite directors of all time, especially as a kid, was Steven Spielberg. Now, when his name is on a project, you know it's going to be quality, you know it's going to be big, it's going to be interesting, exciting, and fun. And for a long time, it was like it had a sort of, action-adventure-y sort of feel to his name because we know what to expect from him. Now, I'm only going to count his great films, not things like Jurassic Park or even Jaws that are like, Jaws is a great work of art, honestly. But like Jurassic Park, it's like, okay, it's sort of iconic, but it's by far not a great movie. So I'm going to start with E.T. Classic, absolutely perfect. Still holds up to this day how good that movie is. Maybe Close Encounters, definitely Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That is possibly one of the greatest action-adventure movies ever made. And it's not just the action in it and the adventure in it, but the humor and the character development between father and son and how it plays out is absolutely perfect, is an incredible script. Shout out to Tom Stoppard, who added some invaluable stuff to Last Crusade. He also did Empire of the Sun. If you've never seen that with Christian Bale, it is staggering, honestly. Color Purple, great film. Schindler's List, masterpiece. Amistad, great film. Saving Private Ryan. Just for the first 40 minutes alone, that is a masterpiece. I love AI. I think it is brilliant. Catch Me If You Can. Munich, maybe War Horse, and Lincoln. These things, they have to produce dividends every time you watch them. A masterpiece, in my opinion, is one that holds up over time. E.T. is one of those movies. Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, Amistad, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan even. Those movies hold up over time. Some of his last couple, like Lincoln, I just have no need to watch that again. It just seems so preachy. It's not bad, and of course, the performance from Daniel Day-Lewis is perfect. It's just not a great movie to me. So let's say with Spielberg, so he's got 8. So Coppola with 4, Spielberg with 8, and Eastwood with 6. Okay? That's the score so far. Not bad. So obviously Spielberg has a lot. Next up, possibly one of the greatest of all time, definitely one of my favorite directors of all time, Stanley Kubrick. Now, the thing that's interesting about him is he only has 12 movies, and I would say 10 of them are absolute classics. The Killing, Paths of Glory, Spartacus, Lolita, Dr. Strangelove, 2001, Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. Now, regardless of what you think of some of those movies, they are classics, they are brilliant, and they will all stand the test of time. Each one of them defines and reinvents a genre at the same time. Think about it. Every sci-fi movie tries to compare to 2001. What he did in that movie with the special effects, the storytelling, the sort of existential dilemma, every sci-fi film has tried to replicate that. Every horror movie tries to compare to The Shining. Every war movie tries to be Full Metal Jacket, and every satire tries to compare to Dr. Strangelove. Every heist movie even tries to be The Killing, including Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, which every other movie tried to be like. Every period piece tries to be Barry Lyndon. If you've never seen Barry Lyndon, if you've never seen the scenes in Barry Lyndon where Kubrick lit thousands of candles in these massive interiors of these castles to make it look more like that period, the look is going to blow you away. It's a great story. It's beautifully shot. It is awesome. Every period piece would love to emulate that. So he also has this way of expressing this deep truth about human behavior that we rarely see in modern films, the kind that stick with you, that do reveal some sort of truth that it doesn't go away. You know, in my opinion, he could be the greatest American director. Now, if he's got 12 films and 10 of them are classics, then someone has to beat 10. So, are any other American directors out there can beat 10 classics, 10 masterpieces? Okay, so in terms of modern American film masters, I cannot forget Martin Scorsese. We can start with Mean Streets. He had a few others before that, but let's start with Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Casino, Killers of the Flower Moon, Age of Innocence, The Departed, Shutter Island. Now, I think those are the for sure classics. He has some other really good ones and other epics. You know, he has movies like Gangs of New York, Wolf of Wall Street, The Aviator, which are just epics, but I just don't find them to be masterpieces. The Irishman, I really thought was fantastic, so I'm going to include that one in there as well. If not a little bloated, but I still thought it was perfectly done. And with same with like Last Temptation of Christ, Color of Money, Cape Fear, King of Comedy. Those are fantastic. After Hours. So he's got a lot. So if you're keeping score here, that is, I'm just going to go with the absolute classics. I feel like he's got like 3 tiers. He's got the classics. He's got the ones that are just sort of epic misfires almost, but they're still really good films. And then he has a few like genre movies like Bringing Out the Dead that kind of like, oh, that was good for what it was. So we got Taxi Driver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I got about 9. Let's give him 10 because he has, you know, just so many movies. So he's got 10. So he ties with Kubrick with most classics. What I love about Scorsese in particular is he is a filmmaker with a deep understanding and knowledge of film, the language of film, the history of film, and he knows how to tell a great story. He is one of the most knowledgeable film buffs of our time. Tarantino's probably second. So he puts his knowledge into practice, and he makes mature movies for adults that have a broader theme to them. Movies like, you know, Killers of the Flower Moon and what it says about capitalism and sort of these clueless people that just get swept up in it. And I'm talking about the American, not the Indians. It's a fantastic take. I'm going to do another video on Killers of the Flower Moon because I thought it was a masterpiece. But, his films have like penetrated the zeitgeist. Movies like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, like those are iconic. Goodfellas, Casino, like people know those movies. They know the lines from those movies. They know the performances from those movies. They are fantastic. So that in and of itself, for me, Scorsese is one of the greats of all time. Last Waltz also is technically a documentary, but it's supposed to be really good. And I admit I have not seen The Silence, or Silence, I think it's called, with Andrew Garfield. I haven't seen it, so maybe it's good. Let me know what you think. And I thought Wolf of Wall Street, it's got some iconic moments. I just don't find it that compelling of a story. It's fun, it's funny, it's birthed a million memes, and the performances are great. It's just, I don't know, just not my thing thematically. So let's say he's got 12, okay? So he's surpassed Kubrick, and he's got 12 classics. Again, Age of Innocence, one of my favorites of his. So he beats Kubrick. So, there we go. Scorsese beats Kubrick. But hang on, there's one more filmmaker who has even more than 12. And here it is. No director in history is prolific as this director. He is an auteur, and perhaps why, he's above people like Spielberg who rely on other scripts that he directs. This filmmaker writes, directs, produces, and often stars in his own movies. Not only that, but he's made nearly one feature film a year since 1966 and continues to churn them out, and he's in his 80s. That in and of itself deserves the top spot. So let's go through the great ones. First, we'll start with his most critically acclaimed. That is Annie Hall. And of course, the director is Woody Allen. Annie Hall is a masterwork that is still relevant today. If you've not seen it, check it out. It really captures the male-female dynamic perfectly. He captures, again, like I said, this truth about human behavior. And he has a penchant for doing that with such humor and ingenuity that it's ridiculous. Now, without having seen some of his more recent films, I think I kind of stopped around Cafe Society because I just didn't like it that much. And Irrational Man as well. I was kind of like, whatever, maybe misfires. But from Blue Jasmine down to Annie Hall, I can count at least 16 great works. And I'm not including some of his early comedies that kind of put him on the map and defined like his neurotic sort of, sense of humor. Things like Sleeper or Bananas or Everything You Want to Know About Sex, but we're afraid to ask. He also jumps between genres pretty often. Match Point is just this amazing masterpiece of a thriller. Of course, his silly comedy style. Vicky Cristina Barcelona, a sort of sexy comedy. Cassandra's Dream. He kind of jumps around. We have this sort of, this deep understanding of human behavior in films like Husbands and Wives and Hannah and Her Sisters, or the sort of magical elements of Midnight in Paris. I mean, you can go through his IMDb, and again, like I said, ever since let's say Blue Jasmine down. Blue Jasmine, To Rome with Love, Midnight in Paris, You'll Meet a Tall Dark Stranger, Whatever Works, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, Cassandra's Dream, Scoop, Match Point, Melinda and Melinda, Anything Else, Hollywood Ending, Sweet and Lowdown. What a great movie with Sean Penn. Celebrity, fantastic with Leo. Deconstructing Harry, not bad. Everyone Says I Love You, that was great. Mighty Aphrodite, that was great. Oscar nominee, I think she won for it. Let's see, Bullets Over Broadway, Manhattan Murder Mystery, Husbands and Wives, Shadows and Fog, Alice, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Radio Days, Hannah and Her Sisters, Purple Rose of Cairo, Broadway Danny Rose, Zelig, and it goes on. Manhattan, Interiors, Annie Hall, Love and Death, and again, we go through some of his comedies down the line there in the 70s. That is insane. And from right off the bat, and I'm skipping so many, and again, some of his early comedies that, whatever, they're subjective, but just in the breadth of those, I've got 16. I'm counting 16 great works. And whatever, if you don't like his neurotic sort of comedy style and it's easy to mock, but that's because it's so iconic and he's done it so well for so long. And they're funny. He's got some of the best one-liners in history in his movies. And again, he can jump from genre to genre. And I'm just judging him as a filmmaker and how prolific he has been and just constantly churning out stuff. So for me, Woody Allen is the greatest American filmmaker because he's got 16 masterworks and so many other ones. All right, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next video.